When you think about the end of a great war, you picture a final, decisive battle. But for the Mahabharata, it all came down to the final hours of one man, King Duryodhana. His entire army was gone, his greatest warriors had fallen, and he was all alone. This is the story of his last stand.
You really have to understand this about him. His whole world has just crumbled. Bhishma, Drona, even his best friend Karna, they're all gone. But does he surrender? No way. This single idea defines him now. As long as he is breathing, the war is not over. For him, life is war.
So, we find ourselves on the 18th and final day of the war. And Duryodhana is something he has never been before in his entire life. A lone king, walking through the empty, silent camps of his dead army.
I mean, just think about the scale of this loss for a second. These aren't just names on a list. These were the absolute pillars of his empire. The grandsire, Bhishma, his teacher, Drona, the unbeatable Karna. Even the mastermind behind it all is Uncle Shakuni. Every single one, gone. He's a commander with no one left to command.
Okay, so facing impossible odds, Duryodhana makes a move. But don't mistake this for cowardice. This isn't him running away. It's a calculated, desperate, final strategic move. He heads for the one place he thinks he can find cover, a nearby lake.
And he has a plan. A pretty clever one, actually. He's going to use a special yogic power called Jalastambha to literally hide beneath the surface of the water. The idea is to wait it out till nightfall, meet up with the last 3 commanders he has left, and then launch one final devastating surprise attack. See? Even now, on the very edge of defeat, his mind is still scheming.
But, of course, the plan hits a snag. A local hunter sees him go into the water and immediately runs to tell the Pandavas. And when Bhima hears this news, oh man, that rage, which has been simmering for 13 long years, just completely boils over. The hunt is on. The final showdown is about to happen.
This brings us to probably the most famous one-on-one fight in the entire epic. This is more than just a duel. It's the climax of a lifelong rivalry. The final Gada Yudh, the mace duel, that will finally decide who wins the Kurukshetra war.
So Duryodhana comes out of the lake, and he's furious, accusing the Pandavas of trapping him. But then Yudhishthira does something pretty amazing. In an incredible display of fairness, he basically hands the rules of the fight over to Duryodhana. He says, "You can fight any one of us you want. The weapon will be the mace."
Duryodhana's choice is immediate, and it's soaked in pride. Of course, he chooses Bhima. Why? Because their hatred is the deepest, the most personal, and he knows, strategically, that if he can take down Bhima, the powerhouse of the Pandavas, their morale will be completely and utterly shattered.
The duel starts, and it's right here that the lines between the official rules of war and the personal demands of justice just get completely erased. This is where the story takes its most controversial turn.
Now you have to remember, Duryodhana was an absolute master with the mace. He and Bhima had the same teacher, Balarama. And on this day, Duryodhana's skill, his precision, his technique, it was giving him the edge. He was actually starting to win the fight. Krishna sees Bhima starting to falter, and he steps in. But he doesn't shout a command. He just gives a reminder. He taps his own thigh, a simple gesture. But for Bhima, it's like a lightning bolt. It takes him right back to that horrifying day in the court, to the moment Duryodhana slapped that same thigh and shamefully invited Draupadi to sit on his lap. And Bhima's vow to shatter that thigh comes roaring back to life.
And in the very next instant, it happens. Bhima, filled with this renewed rage, completely shatters the sacred rule of mace combat. You never strike below the waist. He puts every ounce of his legendary strength into one illegal, catastrophic blow and just smashes Duryodhana's thigh, sending the king crashing to the ground for good.
The reaction is immediate, and it creates this huge moral argument. Balarama, their teacher, is absolutely furious. To him, this is adharma. A sacred rule was broken, end of story. But Krishna, he sees it differently. He argues that this wasn't just breaking a rule for the sake of it. This was delivering long overdue justice for an unspeakable crime that started this whole thing.
So the duel is over. The physical fight is done, but the conflict, it's not over. It just shifts from a battle of maces to a battle of words, between the broken king on the ground and the triumphant one standing over him.
And even here, lying broken and dying, Duryodhana's pride is untouched. He scoffs at them. He says, "Sure, you won the battle, but you had to cheat to do it. You won the kingdom, but I have won Dharma." He's trying to claim a moral victory.
But Yudhishthira shuts him down with this incredibly powerful comeback. He basically says, "Your Dharma? Was your Dharma cheating at dice? Was it trying to disrobe Draupadi in public? Killing Abhimanyu unfairly? If that was your Dharma, then destroying it is the only true justice there is."
The Pandavas leave him there, thinking it's finally over. Duryodhana will die, and the war will end. But this story has one last terrible chapter left. The end isn't quite finished.
As night begins to fall on the battlefield, 3 surviving Kaurava warriors finally find their king. It's Ashwatthama, Kripacharya, and Kritavarma. And they find him lying there, broken but still breathing.
And with the very last of his strength, he gives them one final, chilling command. The war is not over. He makes them promise to get revenge no matter what it takes. And this final act of pure hatred is what ensures the violence is going to continue deep into the night.
So, Duryodhana is defeated, but his hatred, his need for revenge, it lives on. It gets passed like a poisoned torch to his last remaining followers. And it just leaves us with this really haunting question. After all the armies are destroyed and the enemy king is dead, what is actually left after the war is won?